Hello there, Ungainly Titan here. Welcome back to another Unearthed Arcana discussion. I want to continue on with the class variants published recently on Unearthed Arcana, so continuing on from basically last week's discussion. And initially look at the Bard, Warlock and Sorcerer. The key element here is that all three of these classes, as well as the Paladin and the Bard, or the Paladin and the Ranger, anything basically that has a spells known list, get spell versatility. Spell versatility is a first level feature. It enhances spell casting, and whenever you finish a long rest, you learn from the spell. You can replace one of the spells you learn from the spell casting feature with another spell from the same spell list. The new spell must be the same as the level you replace, and cantrips is a note, a sidebar to note that in the Bard section anyway, that cantrips are 0 level spells. Don't use spell slots. And when a feature applies to spells, it applies to cantrips unless otherwise stated. Now, I think this adds to the versatility of all the classes that receive it. It adds considerably to the versatility. It makes niche spells and specialized spells that normally wouldn't be picked more likely to be picked under certain circumstances, because you now do not permanently lose the spell. You still have the opportunity class that is a combat spell or some other kind of utility spell that's much more general purpose that you won't have for the duration for at least 24 hours while you have this particular spell swapped in. But at least it's better than the situation that previously existed in this or any other version of Dungeons and Dragons, where a lot of interesting but niche spells just never got picked by, especially by classes that had a limited collection of spells known. There might not be high priority picks for a wizard, say when they're building up their spell book, but if a wizard came across them in another spell book or a scroll, they probably wouldn't refuse it. When you couple this ability along with the expanded spell list of the various classes, I think it actually increases the flexibility of these classes quite a lot. Now, there is some controversy, I've seen it on at least the forum that I regularly attend, Ian World, about this is stepping on the toes of the wizard, and it's reducing the identity of the wizard, and it's also changing the identity of for instance, the sorcerer, whom some people seem to consider to be defined by the fact that they don't know a lot of spells. I'm not sure if I buy into this argument. First of all, I think the wizard is plenty flexible. If you think the wizard needs more flexibility, then, well, you're the DM of your game, and there's no reason why you can't give the wizard more spells. I don't think it would change the wizard significantly. The wizard will always have more spells in their spell book than they're actually going to prepare at any given point in time. In fact, the sorcerer, in my opinion, is underpowered. I haven't really seen a sorcerer in play, nor have I seen a warlock. Although I know somebody's campaign I'm starting is now starting to play one. Well, play a multi-class sorcerer warlock, but I haven't really seen the class in action. But my glance at it, my reading of the sorcerer is that it's actually a bit underpowered, and it doesn't actually fit the concept well, at least the concept I have of a sorcerer. Because I would see the sorcerer supposed to be influenced very much by the 3rd edition vision of the sorcerer as the magic, the person that the magic is so powerful in, that they have such a strong magical presence that magic spontaneously erupts from them unless they learn to control their power, sort of thing. And I think the 5th edition sorcerer is relatively weak sauce in comparison to that. In particular, I think I would be in favour of having something like detect magic being almost a default trait for a sorcerer, maybe identify, or at least a weaker version of identify. Again, almost a default power for a sorcerer. However, the current version does go a little bit way towards this. I mean, detect magic is on the sorcerer list. Identify isn't, strangely enough. I think it should be, but there's a reason now a sorcerer might pick a spell like that. Overall, the Bard, I think, strictly speaking, doesn't need it. The Bard also gets magical inspiration, which basically allows a Bard to give an inspiration dice to a caster class, and the caster class can now use that in a roll, or the damage roll of or a healing roll of a spell, which increases the flexibility again of magic inspiration and makes it of greater utility to more members of the party. Now the Sorcerer also gets extra Font-O-Magic options, Meta-Magic options, and the Warlock, of course, gets quite a few Eldritch Invocations. I don't know, because I haven't really enough experience with the Sorcerer to say how much boost or how much of a power boost the Font-O-Magic and Meta-Magic options are. The Warlock options look very flavoursome. And there's a new Pact boon as well. But I'm not 100% sure, how much of an enhancement they are. Although, my impression is that the Warlock is very much about the Eldritch Blast and the invocations that can be used to augment it, rather than about spellcasting per se. So it probably is an extra variety and more thematic stuff available to the Sorcerer, and it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. The Warlock seems to be a relatively popular character, so I can't say any more really. So I'm going to move on from those three onto the Ranger. The Ranger has effectively gotten a complete rewrite. The Ranger has had a number of powers replaced. So there's a replacement for the Natural Explorer power. Now, I found the original Natural Explorer power to be rather fiddly, and I think I really like the Deft Explorer options. So you get three options at 1st, 6th and 10th level, so you choose one. Canny, Roving or Tireless. Now, Canny is choose one skill out of the Animal Handling, Athletics, History, Insight, Investigation, Medicine, Nature, Perception, Stealth or Survival. You gain a proficiency in the chosen skill if you don't already have it, and you can add double your proficiency bonus to ability checks used in that skill. In addition, thanks to your extensive wandering, you're able to speak and read 2 languages of your choice. My own feeling is that the Ranger actually needs a double proficiency in at least 2 of those skills to shine as a Ranger, because a rogue with the right background, taking the scout option, I think can outrange the Ranger in that area with expertise. So, and I think the Ranger needs that extra double proficiency just to hold his own. So I'd be actually inclined to make Kenny a little bit more powerful. I think Roving is actually quite powerful. Your speed increases by 5, your walking speed, and you gain a climbing speed and a swimming speed equal to your walking speed. That's pretty solid. Tireless is probably less so and maybe a bit more dependent on the campaign, although at low levels it could be quite potent. As an action, you give yourself a number of temporary hit points equal to 1d10 plus your wisdom modifier. You can use this special action a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum once. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. And whenever you finish a short rest, your exhaustion level, if any, goes down by 1. Now that's Deft Explorer, which replaces Natural Explorer, and I think it's a much more solid set of options because it's going to be useful in situations where Natural Explorer isn't necessarily going to be useful, in my opinion, which is very tied to the exploration arm, shall we say, of D&D play, which doesn't necessarily feature in all campaigns. The Ranger, of course, also gets spell versatility and the option of using druidic spellcasting spellcasting focus. They also get a 3rd level primal awareness, which replaces primeval awareness. you can focus your awareness through the interconnections of nature. You learn additional spells when you reach certain levels of the class. If you don't already know them, as shown on the Primal Awareness table. These spells do not count against the number of ranger spells you know. Now, this is pretty potent because at 3rd level you get 2 spells. Detect magic and speak with animals. At 5th level you get beast sense, locate animals and plants. 9th you get speak with plants. 13th you get locate creature. And 17th you get commune with nature. Again, you can cast one of these spells once without expending a spell slot. You cast each of those spells once. And once you cast a spell in this way, you can't do so again. You finish a long rest. But they're spells you know as well, so you can cast them using slots, I presume, regularly, and they don't count against your known spell total. So that means that this ranger will finish up now with a pretty formidable total of spells available to them. At 10th level, they get the feature Replaces Hide in Plain Sight, which is Fade Away. You can use a bonus action to magically become invisible along with any equipment you're wearing or carrying until the start of your next round. So you become invisible, move into cover, and hide. And you're already going to be good at hiding. You get expanded spells as well, so the ranger gets some extra spells, including smites. Searing Smite at 1st level, Blinding Smite at 3rd level. And they also get... what's the one? I think I missed one. Which one did I miss? Yeah, Favourite Foe. I missed Favourite Foe when I was reading through it there. So Favourite Foe is you can call on a bond with nature to mark a creature as your favourite enemy for a time. You know the Hunter's Mark spell. Wisdom is your spellcasting ability for it. You can use it a certain number of times without expending a spell slot and without requiring concentration. You can do this a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, a minimum of once. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. When you gain a spell casting feature at 2nd level, Hunter's Mark does not count against the number of ranger spells known. That in conjunction with the extra spells, particularly the smite spells, is actually pretty powerful, because you can now Hunter's Mark an enemy, attack the enemy, and drop a smite on top of them as well, although it takes probably 2 rounds to set it up. So you can do it in the 2nd round, because you're not using your concentration on the Hunter's Mark. The other thing they've brought in is the Ranger Companion options. I won't read through the whole thing, but essentially they give you at the moment a Beast of the Air and a Beast of the Earth, and I could see them expanding the beast list. It's like the different types. They're, I think, significantly better. They're not significantly more powerful, but they give you a certain flexibility. They're probably a little bit more survivable than your original beast options. And the other big one is that both beasts have a ready companion skill, essentially, or feature. So, and as a bonus action, you can command the beast to make its attack or hide. So, unlike the regular beasts in the player's handbook, which you have to use your action to get them to attack, this one you can get them to attack with your bonus action. Now, rangers have a lot of demand on their bonus actions, but that still makes for a very viable option, because you can still make a regular attack. These are, in my opinion, very solid options for the ranger, and now makes the ranger class quite competitive. I think before, the ranger class was just a little bit on the bland side. Particularly, it was dished out consistent amounts of damage, but nothing particularly special beside any of the other classes. And I think this gives the ranger a chance to shine, because the ranger's real bonuses in the previous game, which was in the player's handbook options, I think were the natural explorer and primal awareness or primeval awareness. And they were very situational, it's very dependent on the DM and very dependent on the style of the campaign. Whereas the current options are much more, I think, versatile. They're more applicable in more circumstances than the other ones. And the Beastmaster, well, personally was never a fan of the Beastmaster type class, but I think it's a much more viable class. The other thing I would say about the beasts as well is that unlike the beasts, the animal companions of the Player's Handbook Ranger that take 8 hours to resurrect, these guys can be brought back pretty much by the expenditure of a spell slot. Primal Rebirth, if they die in the last hour, so you can use an action to touch and expend a spell slot at first level or higher, and the beast returns to life after a minute with all its hit points restored. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about the Cleric and the Druid. The Cleric and the Druid, again, both get extra spells. They get cantrip versatility along with the Wizard, which whenever they gain a level in the class, they can replace a cantrip they've learned from the spellcasting feature with another cantrip from the appropriate list. So Cleric from the Cleric list, Druids from the Druid list. The Cleric, along with the Paladin, gets Channel Divinity Harness Divine Power, which is an enhancement to Channel Divinity, and you basically expend the use of Channel Divinity to fuel your spells. So as a bonus action, you touch your holy symbol, utter a prayer, and regain expended first level spell slot. Nice, not utterly amazing, but certainly nice. The Cleric also at 8th level gets Blessed Strikes, which replaces Divine Strike or Potent Spellcasting, and essentially it combines the two of them into the one feature. So, Divine Strike was that if you hit with a melee attack, you could do 1d8 radiant damage to the creature once in a round. You can't use it again to the start of your next turn. And Potent Spellcasting was the same deal except for a spell. So if you attacked or damaged an enemy with a spell, you could do an extra 1d8 radiant damage again and wouldn't be able to do it again until the start of your next turn. You can now do it for either. So it takes the two separate features that were different Cleric domains got. It was domain dependent. And now you get them so that every Cleric has it. The Druid also gets cantrip versatility, it gets extra Druid spells, and it gets the Wild Companion feature, which I think is a nice one. You can basically expend a wild shape to summon a familiar temporarily. The familiar won't stay with you permanently, it's a Fae instead of a beast, and it disappears after the number of hours equal to half your Druid levels. But if you want to do a bit of reconnaissance, or whatever, you can summon a familiar and gain the same advantages as a familiar that a wizard would have, but you have it for a shorter period of time. And then it goes away. Since we mentioned the Paladin, I might as well go straight on to the Paladin. So the Paladin gets the Channel Divinity power that I said already. They get the Blessed Warrior fighting style as an option, which essentially means that they can take 2 cantrips from the Cleric list, and they know them. They count as Paladin spells for the Paladin. Charisma is their spellcasting stat, and whenever they gain a level, they can replace a cantrip with another cantrip from the Cleric list. They also get some extra Paladin spells. Moving on to the Monk. The Monk gets another different monk weapons. So you can define your monk weapons rather than using the definition in the Player's Handbook in martial arts. So you can practice your martial arts with specially chosen weapons, which become monk weapons for you. You choose a number of weapons equal to your monk weapons, equal to 5 plus your wisdom modifier, minimum of 5. The chosen weapons must meet the following criteria. They must be simple or martial. You must be proficient with the weapons. The weapons must lack the properties heavy, special, or two-handed. But it means you could have a dwarven monk using battle axes or warhammers. Or you could have an elven monk using rapiers or longswords, longbows, that sort of thing. Key-fueled strike. This seems to be more of a feature for those types of monks that use spells, essentially, where they can cast spells using their ki. And if you cast spells using your ki, you're not making a martial arts attack or a non-armed attack during that turn. So you could now, if you spend ki as part of your action on your turn, you can immediately make one unarmed strike as a bonus action. The monk also gets a couple of extra key features: Distant Eye and Quickened Healing. And that finally leaves us with the fighter. The fighter gets a few options. They get a fighting style option, Superior Technique, which basically allows them to use a Battle Master technique option without being a Battle Master. So you get a superiority dice and you get one maneuver. You also get maneuver versatility. If you know any maneuvers, so if you're a Battle Master or you've taken Superior Technique as your fighting style, or one of your fighting styles, because if you're a champion you can get two, for instance. Maneuver versatility allows you to swap out your known maneuver after a long rest. They've added in a number of maneuver options: Bait and Switch, Brace, Restraining Strike, Silver Tongue, Snipe, and Studious Eye. Silver Tongue and Studious Eye are interesting because they are not combat related. So Silver Tongue, you can make a Charisma Deception check or a Charisma Persuasion check. That's when you make them. You can expend a superiority die and add the superiority die to the ability check. Studious Eye is when you make a Wisdom Insight check or an Intelligence Investigation check. You can expend a superiority die and add the superiority die to the ability check. There are also a number of fighting style options which are available to the Paladin, the Ranger, and the Fighter. These are called out at the end of the document, so you can get Blind Fighting, Interception, Thrown Weapon Fighting, and Unarmed Strike. Now, Blind Fighting, you don't suffer disadvantage basically when you're if you're unable to see a creature. Interception is a protection, you mitigate damage. Thrown Weapon Fighting allows you to draw a weapon as part of the attack action, and you get a +1 bonus to the damage roll. And Unarmed Fighting basically allows you to grapple and your fists become unarmed weapons. The Paladin, Ranger, and Fighter also get martial versatility. So when you level a class that has a fighting style feature, you can replace the fighting style feature with another fighting style feature. So it essentially gives you permission for kind of retraining as you level up. So you might start out, say, as a duelist or something like that, and somewhere you might get a magical +2 great axe, and you decide that you're going to become great weapon fighter. So you now can legitimately swap the skills, and you're not stuck with your initial choice forever and ever. Overall, I actually think there's the direction of these martial versatility or these class features is actually really good. It allows wizards to tackle issues with the base classes without making them mandatory, without reprinting the player's handbook. These will obviously come out in a new book, and they'll be, or at least the final versions of them, I presume, will come out in a new book, but they'll probably be optional. But I would certainly encourage their use, and I think wizards are also trying to encourage DMs to be flexible, to be relatively generous to the players in terms of options they're giving them. They're saying here, look, you can do all this stuff and you won't break the game, and it's balanced and it retains its balance with this extra stuff. So overall, I think it's a very positive development, and I would certainly like to see more of it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please press like, comment, share. It really helps the channel out. And if you have not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. I will catch you all again soon. Bye for now.